delighted to welcome on stage, one after the other, two very accomplished leaders who also happen to be women. So may I first invite up Radhika Gupta. So how do I introduce Radhika? She's a girl on a mission with wings of fire. Those are her words, not mine. That's her description on LinkedIn, and I couldn't think of a more appropriate way to introduce her. She has joint degrees in economics and computer engineering. She's been an entrepreneur, a TEDx speaker, an author, and she also happens to be the managing director and CEO of Edelweiss Asset Management. Amongst India's younger asset managers, it crossed 1 lakh crore rupees in assets under management this year. That's roughly $12 billion.
Yep.
Yeah, well, congratulations.
Thank you.
We also have a shining star in the audience. Is he here?
He's about to be here.
So. All right, so we'll reveal it later at the end of this conversation, right? But Radhika, thank you so much for being here as you know, this very special evening for all of us here at Bloomberg and the audience. I want to start by asking you about the key moments, the pivots, the decisions in your life's career journey that brought you here. Was it that your parents, you know, sort of opened the door and said, "Ja Radhika, ja, ji le apni zindagi"? She's a Shah Rukh Khan fan.
I am. Don't judge me.
I found out. So,
I think the answer is somewhere in the middle. You know, I grew up with parents who were very aspirational for me. A mother who gave up her career early to marry my father and didn't want me to do that. But, well, they said, "Ja, ji le apni zindagi, go live your life." They didn't give me the direction or the road I had to take. And I think that's very important. My parents came from the public sector and the education sector. So forget banking or consulting or investment management. There was no difference between, there was private sector or public sector. And my career is a result of figuring it out. I did a tryst in technology at Microsoft. I did a tryst in consulting. And then I say one day, like Goldilocks, I found asset management, and I found that was the right balance for me. In the Indian context, I often say my career is like an arranged marriage. It's an arranged career. I didn't grow up saying, I want to be this. But I figured it out, and I learned to love it.
Okay, great. Edelweiss is now amongst the top 10 AMCs in the country?
Almost there.
Almost there?
Almost there.
Okay, not on the list yet, right? What has it been like? Because it's a space that's competing, I mean, that's, you know, dominated by bank-owned brands. And it's a space that's also going to become very, very competitive now as we have Jio, Zerodha, all of these new entrants, you know, sort of come in and make your life a little bit tougher. What has that, you know, sort of competitive landscape been like?
God, it's a damn tough business. I think very few industries have 45 people, the largest of whom are backed by very large banks. And if you look at asset management and handing your money over to someone, it is finally a business of brand and trust. And one of the reasons, by the way, I feel this new voices thing is so important is that in finance, being out there and being visible is so important because you're finally selling trust. We're not selling lipstick that you can use and make a decision on. We're selling a promise in asset management that may or may not be realized, despite the best intentions. So I think the journey of building out a new retail financial services brand has been an incredibly challenging one, and also is becoming gradually an increasingly rewarding one as we start to see the fruits of that labor.
How did you find success? Because you're almost top 10, right? And that must have been challenging. Also, Edelweiss has been in the news often for facing credit crunches, capital issues. I think I remember right after the IMF's crisis in 2019, then when COVID happened. So, you know, this is, it's not a group, it's a first generation group in that sense.
It has, and just to give you very quick statistics, I think in 2017, when we embarked on this journey, we were 6,000 crores or less than $1 billion of assets when we had bought over JP Morgan. And today we are, 1.15 lakh crores, about $13 billion of assets. So while whatever may have happened at a parent level or in the credit crisis, we've actually been the fastest growing asset manager over this period. And that's something, by the way, the whole group is very proud of. I think, what has been key is a couple of things. One is an inherent sense of optimism and focusing on what you can control. I think 2018 and 19 were the most defining moments, the credit crisis for my career, because I learned I had to stop defending and start attacking. And that is genuinely a state of mind. When you go out there with confidence saying, I'm doing a damn good job at the asset management business I'm running, and see me for that, the world starts seeing you very differently. The second is, I think, taking bold bets. So when you have 40 players, the easiest thing to do is say, let's just do what everyone else is doing. And I hate these words, industry is doing this. We have to break out of industry. Nobody is going to care about us if we do what the top 5 or the top 6 are doing. So some very bold bets. Bharat Bond was one of them. People are familiar with it. We can speak in detail. And third is, I think asset management is a business. I use these lines in Hindi called chappal ghiso, and they literally mean wear out your shoes. And an investor asked me in our early days, how are you going to be different? Expecting a very strategic answer from a CEO. And my answer was, we're just going to work harder. We're going to travel more. We are going to be more accessible to distribution partners. If a customer has a problem, we're going to solve it more aggressively than others. And I genuinely believe that that is an edge. And by the way, I buy 6 pairs of shoes a quarter because I travel so much.
Okay, but work harder isn't going to cut it in front of the Ambanis, is it? So what are you going to do?
So I've been asked.
How do you see that change the industry?
So,
let me put it
so
that way.
without talking about a particular player,
let's talk about a particular
fine.
player.
Okay, let's talk. You're a journalist. You're going to ask me tricky questions, and while I don't
Not
have
tricky,
media,
very direct.
No, but while I don't have media training from Bloomberg, I will answer that question.
We have a cohort opening in the next 6 weeks.
There you go. Okay, I'll sign up if you guys take me. So. One, I think the presence of a player like Jio, and for that matter, presence of a player like Bajaj and so many others that are coming into this market tells you one thing. This is a damn good industry to be a part of. This is a conversation Rashesh and I had. And I think perhaps the role they will play, there are multiple kinds of disruption. There is pricing disruption, there is distribution disruption. If you were to ask me, I don't think there is scope for pricing disruption in the asset management industry. Incidentally, the person who runs the lowest cost asset management product in this country and the lowest cost debt asset management product in the world is us, and it's been a runaway success. And regulations govern pricing, so there's not very much that you can do.
True.
And product innovation.
And regulations will govern pricing even more now,
and regulations
as
will
we
govern.
see some of the new SEBI regulations coming.
Without taking the name, another prominent player, Zerodha, made its entry. And the first product they chose to launch is actually a replica of a product we launched. So I don't think product and pricing innovation are just the domain of business.
But what about passive? I mean, if a player like Jio and Ambani comes in, and sorry to persist to use the name, but given the affiliations that they have, they're bringing in, passive is going to be a big push for them, right? And that is a pricing game at the end of the day.
But you can't price it below zero.
No, you can't.
You can't. The regulations won't let you do that. Bharat Bond charges 0.0005%.
Okay.
But
that's just one product, right? Passive.
No, and by the way, other passive funds in our industry are also at razor-thin margins.
So you don't think it's going to be priced?
No, I don't think.
So you don't think passive is going to be a big game changer?
I don't think the product or the pricing. If you look at Zerodha, which is making a passive entry, their first filed product is a large and mid-cap 250 index fund. Guess who's the first AMC to launch that in the passive space? It's already us.
Okay, so what's going to change in this game then?
Distribution. I think where Jio or any player like that can make an impact is bringing 5 crore more users into the country.
Right.
And that's fantastic for them, but it's also fantastic for all of us. If there's one thing that upsets me is that I read this report that there are 40 crore Netflix users in the country and 30 crore food delivery subscribers. Now, If you can pay for Netflix and if you can order on Zomato, you probably can start a 100 rupee SIP. And honestly, the more the mutual fund goodwill spreads, the better it is. A few years ago, pre-COVID, a bunch of fintechs came, people like Grow and ET Money, etc., and doubled the number of mutual fund customers. It was disruptive distribution. If Jio or Zerodha adds 5 crore more customers, heck, it's good for all of us.
Yeah, well, so we're only at 4 crore. I remember reading an Edelweiss report that says that the folios or the registrations, for those who don't understand folios, the registrations are several crores.
Yeah, the number of unique users. Yeah,
the number of unique users are only 4 crores.
Less than 4 crores. To make you feel a little worse,
sorry, I think we're supposed to talk in million and billion.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
Yes.
You'll do the translation.
No, I was hoping you'd do it.
Okay. To give you a perspective, there are 3 times the number of Dream 11 users. That's an online gaming platform.
Correct.
So we have a long way to go.
Okay. So you're saying that they will bring in distribution.
Yes.
Especially a player like Jio or Zerodha.
I would hope so.
Which is a discount broker or a zero-cost broker, so to speak. Now, how will you fight the network effects of that? Because that's something you don't necessarily have. I mean, you're a brokerage which, in the group, you've recently actually listed and sold. Yeah, sold and listed in that sense. So how are you going to fight the net? You call it distribution, I call it network effects, and it's going to be a huge challenge.
Actually, we're going to play our own game. You may think Jio or Zerodha is disruptive. We deal with State Bank of India Mutual Fund today, which has the largest banking franchise in this country, and the name SBI is present on the Meghalaya border, where people don't forget knowing Edelweiss, they can't even pronounce Edelweiss. So we already deal with 4-5 major banking asset management companies that are deeply disruptive. We are investing in building a brand that customers like. We are investing in building a distribution network. And finally, what I have seen over the last 5-6 years is asset management has become increasingly meritocratic. So if you have a product that performs and solves a problem for the customer, you will grow. At the time of launching Bharat Bond, I was told that a new AMC can make it in equities, but you have no hope in fixed income, because when you try to raise fixed income money, people tell you, oh, you need minimum XYZ assets under management. And I was like, well, if you don't give me the assets, how will I have them? It's a chicken and egg problem of the highest order. But we found a product. We found something that solved a customer problem. We worked with the regulator. We were agile in bringing it to market first. And we built a $5 billion business, by the way, without our own distribution.
So you think all this new competition will expand the market, not cannibalize your market share? That's your hope, right?
That's my hope, and I think in a country like India, we really need to focus on expanding the market. You are 16% mutual fund to GDP penetration when the world average is 80. We should expand the pie, not focus on how to divide it.
Okay, one of the big expansion sort of phenomena that's taken place over the last decade has been, we're going to say hello to the star of the evening, actually.
That's my 15-month-old son. Hi, baby.
So everyone wave out to him before I move to the next question. Okay, great. Sorry, I was talking about...
See, he's cute, he's distracting.
I was talking about, expansion. And one of the key phenomena that's played out over the last 5-7 years has been the SIP phenomena, right? The systematic investment plan. Do you see this sustaining? Do you see this expanding? Do you see this changing and metamorphing into something else? How do you see that being a bulwark of the growth of this industry? I
think it's the best thing that's happened to this country. And I think it's something that we as Indians don't value, but when I speak to global investors, we've built a $2 billion SIP book without special tax incentives and without programs like 401k, and it's all the savings of retail Indians. And I think this is a structural mega trend. I joined the industry in 2017 when the SIP book was 1/4 this size. And since then, I've been hearing cynicism about it. SIP is not a complex thing. It's a way to help a salaried Indian save. Money that comes into your bank account automatically goes into something. It builds a habit. And nobody who's done an SIP in any fund for 10 years has a bad outcome. My prediction is that in 5 years, India will have an SIP book double the size of what it is today.
So this structural shift in mindset is here to stay.
It's absolutely. The young Indian is aspirational. wants to participate in the growth of the economy, and that will happen through equities and SIP.
Okay, great. So I have now a couple of final questions here. Besides the conventional mutual fund industry that we've been discussing for the better part of this conversation, asset management today is alternatives, it's credit. What are you most excited about in this space besides mutual funds?
So,
should we ask him to answer the question?
He probably can, knowing the number of con calls I've been on. He understands. He's waving. There you go. So I think I'm excited about any product that solves a solution for the customer. I think mutual funds solve a solution for the customer. For instance, parts of mutual funds, hybrid funds do a great job. I'm excited about the private credit industry on the AIF side. I'm excited about the expansion of REITs and InvITs as an asset class.
Hasn't taken off as well as we had hoped it to be.
It hasn't, and I think there are limitations as to what you can do on a mutual fund platform, but I think between regulators and industry, all of us will work very hard to make sure that we create the right platforms to allow REITs and InvITs, to be structured on the mutual fund platform. And so I'm excited about that asset class. I'm excited about growth equity. So any decently managed asset that solves a problem for a consumer, I actually don't judge platforms.
So you're expecting intense growth in all of these spaces?
Absolutely.
And will they evolve the same way the mutual fund industry has evolved, or much faster?
So they'll evolve, not at the scale that the mutual fund industry has evolved in. But if you ask me, is the private credit industry going to explode? Our sister company is a very large player there, India's largest. It will explode because the mutual fund platform is limited in what it can offer because it serves a retail consumer base. So simple products, simple solutions, and that's what mutual funds should be left to do. But a lot of alternatives and I came from the alternative investing world.
Right.
I started my career there. Is private credit going to explode? Absolutely, it'll explode. It's already exploding.
I have to ask a question because otherwise my colleague Anirban will kill me. What do you make of India's inclusion on the JP Morgan bond index? And how do you see this catalyzing foreign flows into India?
I mean, finally it's happened, thank God. It's only good. It's only good. It's something that we've been wanting for a long time. And in the long term, I was very keen that this happened around the time of Bharat Bond also. But finally, you are going to see a lot more global capital come into the debt market.
Okay, I have competitions. I'll ask you the last question
now.
So, I was wondering, what should I end this on? A personal note maybe might be the best way to go. Key leadership decision. Okay, I'm getting vetoed here.
No. Ask your question. He's patient.
Best decision, worst decision in life. Worst decision in life. Let's go with that. Actually, everybody asked the best decision.
The best decision was to move back to India and turn entrepreneur. I don't have worst decisions because if I had, every bad decision has been part of the story, that I'm telling you. So I really don't look back on regrets. I'm fundamentally a very optimistic person. So very few things in life are the worst. I mean, I genuinely believe that most of us need to have far more gratitude than we have.
All right. I'm going to leave it there. I have a feeling that Radhika has more important things to do than answer my questions. But thank you so much for joining us this evening. And congratulations again. It's been an incredibly inspiring journey, and we continue to be inspired watching.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Menaka.